got to do it again, haven't we?
Big match, production number 4444, VTR 28th March 71, take 1.
And welcome again. Today we have one of the most gripping FA Cup semi-finals of the past few years. One with a finish to it that is either exciting or downright cruel, depending on how you look at it, of course. It's Arsenal against Stoke.
Oh, now Kennedy. Can Kennedy turn it? Oh, great work by Banks!
Also the amateur semi-final, Dagenham and Slough. Our studio guest today is Frank McClintock, skipper of Arsenal in that semi-final at Hillsborough, and we also talk to the man who scored that last-minute penalty, Peter Storey. We also have a good long look at your letters today, so it really is a programme packed with good things. We are ready to go. First, it's the FA Cup semi-final, the Hillsborough Copper tumble of noise and colour. For this one, Arsenal against Stoke. Those fellas up there are the Arsenal supporters at that end of the ground. And first of all, let's have a look at the Arsenal team for this semi-final. And Arsenal are unchanged, as expected. The only thing that needed settling was the substitute, and John Samuels gets that place instead of Eddie Kelly. A semi-final with two great goalkeepers. For Arsenal, of course, Bob Wilson, a man who somehow epitomises the unspectacular yet reliable qualities of Arsenal. As for Stoke City, something of a surprise to find Mahoney brought in at 7, Greenoff takes the 4 shirt, Skeels goes back to 2, and fullback Marsh becomes the sub. But if Arsenal have Bob Wilson, Stoke have Gordon Banks, their skipper and the world's #1. The crowd is 55,000 strong. They've paid £80,000 for this one. The referee, Pat Partridge of Middlesbrough.
So Stoke get this semi-final away, defending the goal to our right, all in white. And a match, I suppose, you can quite properly call Stoke's most important of the century, when you think that they've never yet played in a final, and only in one semi-final, and that was in 1899. So vital for Arsenal, of course. It'll be interesting to see how they cope early on with Stoke, having lost to Stoke in the league 5-0, and of course beaten in Cologne in midweek. Pejic. Oh, and Charlie George, a nice little tap there for George Armstrong, and Banks, who is bound to dominate that area. Stoke skipper. Charlie George to Peter Storey. Shrugging off the challenge of Burrows. Quite big enough to look after himself is Storey, and now it's Pat Rice. Storey pleading for the ball behind him again. Now Charlie George. Radford. But cut out again by Stoke City. Mahoney. And Bernard not getting it, and the ball going through to Conroy, who hesitated for a moment, thinking that the whistle was about to go. Regaining his composure and finding Burrows. Mahoney has made a run forward, and a good-looking run it is. But McClintock covering once more for the Arsenal. And the corner going to Stoke City. The first of the game. Anxious men now in that Arsenal goal mouth. Burrows to take it. He'll look for Ritchie. Conroy in the 6-yard area. And a low one. And my goodness! By Bernard, that was only just wide. Blur, in fact, who very nearly put Arsenal behind, is sticking out his foot there. It couldn't have been more than a foot wide of that Arsenal post. George Graham. Eric Skeels to Conroy. Oh, taken by George Graham. And he's got Radford on his left and he's got Kennedy up with him. He had but known it, the better pass was probably out to Radford, who was unmarked down the left. And now a long ball that sends John Ritchie away. He shoved off McClintock. And a shot there, just past the post, by Jimmy Greenhoff. A really thundering break there by Stoke City, that long ball out of defence. Ritchie shaking off McClintock, and Greenhoff just fractionally wide. Radford, a good back header. Skeels back to Banks. And now Pejic. And a bad one by Pejic. Straight into touch for the throw to the Arsenal. And it'll be Story to take it. Kennedy. It was a nice turn inside by Kennedy, but Mahoney got there before George Graham. McNabb putting it straight to Conroy. Burrows on the outside for him, and Greenhoff too. Rice coming across to cover for the Arsenal. Still Greenhoff. Oh, he made a bit of space for himself there, Greenhoff. And Bob Wilson at full stretch with Ritchie behind him. Good work by Wilson. He didn't panic. He judged that to a nicety. There really was so little to spare with Ritchie behind him and poised. And brilliant work by the number 4 in the front of the picture there by Jimmy Greenhoff, who made such a good angle for himself. So a corner to Stoke. Burrows, who takes them from both sides. Low one again, Smith getting in. Conroy there as well. And Story! Oh, against it, it's in! Oh, an absolutely freak goal! And it puts Stoke into the lead. That might have come off any one of 5 players. And it looks as though Dennis Smith is the one who is being credited with it so far as Stoke are concerned. But what a freak goal. Well, it's certainly by the way that the Stoke players were pummeling him that they give the credit to Dennis Smith. But that really is something that can only be established in the dressing room afterwards. Rice. And now McClintock. Oh, McClintock going on and stopped. Now Conroy. Let's really put Arsenal under pressure. Conroy aiming to add to it. Bernard, a nice little flick there. A lot of confidence now about Stoke, as you would expect. Mahoney to Skeels. Now Conroy. Really swinging it about a bit now, Stoke. Oh, and away goes Conroy again to blast it. Oh, into that side netting. Beautiful jinking play there by Conroy, and a good measured build-up by Stoke. Foul by Bloor on Radford. And Arsenal's free kick. Taken quickly, in fact, by George Graham. Pat Rice now, floating another one. Radford to look for it, and Smith getting up Skeels to complete the clearance, but only as far as McNabb. Oh, now Kennedy, can Kennedy turn it? Oh, great work by Banks! Oh, and he's almost lost it! And the whistle had gone. It must have been kicked out of his hands unfairly. Tremendous reactions, though, by Gordon Banks getting down so quickly on that one. A real daunting prospect for the Arsenal, really, when they're this goal down. A freak goal, to be sure. And now they've got to beat this man, the world's number one. So Banks with the free kick for Stoke City. Oh, straight off Radford. Are we going to get another strange goal? George Graham to Charlie George. Turned on nicely there for Radford. A little lucky there. And now Story! Oh, hammering it though. Kennedy! Oh, just past! And Banks coming out to remonstrate with Pat Partridge. Probably more out of relief than anger. And now we have Armstrong with another corner then for the Arsenal. Radford jumping for it, getting it with his head. And Banks. Burrows. Played wide there, and a good one by Burrows, and finding Conroy. Perfectly fair challenge by Story, although the crowd don't think so. Oh, and Conroy doing stupid things there, kicking at Story well after the ball had gone. Getting a talking to from referee Pat Partridge, and perhaps a little lucky not to get more. It'll be Arsenal's free kick. And it'll be Peter Simpson with it. Radford again coming for it. Radford looking very lively this afternoon. Charlie George. Now it's Eric Skeels for Stoke City. Played coolly across his penalty area to Bloor. Mahoney. Greenoff finding Burrows. Mahoney again. Played nicely inside there for Greenoff, who turns it in again. McNabb. Kennedy. Graham. And Simpson away. Bloor to Pedgick. Harry Burrows. Oh, a nice little flick on there. Simpson as cool as you like. Oh, Charlie George! This is the chance! Ritchie! And 2-0! Charlie George's back pass! And Arsenal, disaster for him! And it could well be disaster now for Arsenal. Ritchie, the simplest of goals. Well, you can legislate for almost anything, it seems, these days, but not for the human touch and the human error. And Charlie George, alas for Arsenal, has presented Stoke with their second goal. Well, now it does become a truly formidable task for the Arsenal. Stoke growing in confidence with every moment. And 2 goals to the good. Free kick then to the Arsenal. What on earth must be going through Charlie George's mind now? Armstrong with the free kick. Radford trying to lift himself. Rice to come in on it. And Burrows to put it into touch for Arsenal's throw. Just over half an hour gone. McClintock turning that one in first time. Kennedy looking for it now. And McNabb. Simpson, everybody bar Wilson in the Stoke half of the field now as Kennedy goes for this one. Chased by Skeels. Kennedy getting it through, and Banks picking it up so easily. Simpson, Mahoney, Conroy. And a foul given against Story on Conroy. And already there must be memories of 5-0 at Stoke in September flooding back into Arsenal minds. 2 down with something like 33 minutes gone. Bernard with the free kick. Ritchie looking for it. Graham to get it away, but only as far as Burrows. Now Skeels. Back for Greenough. Nice little pass there, Mahoney! Oh, just passed! Good run by Mahoney. And a good perceptive pass by Greenough. And Stoke continuing to pile it on as Wilson now takes this goal kick for the Arsenal. Rice. And now Charlie George. To Peter Storey, and now to George Gray. McNabb making another run down the left, but Scales cutting that out. Conroy. Greenough. Scales. Scales again, and now Bloor. Mahoney. They're trying to 1-2 there and coming off with Bernard. Mahoney again to Conroy. Good play by Stoke. Mahoney. Now to Burrows. What a beautiful move by Stoke. Burrows! Oh my goodness, almost there. It was Simpson who nodded that one down. But that was a brilliant build-up again by Stoke City that really had Arsenal torn to pieces. Conroy getting it across. Ritchie poised underneath it. And a free kick given. That one going straight off Ritchie, but falling for McClintock. Oh, McClintock, very lucky indeed there. He nearly presented Greenough with it. Armstrong in, bravely, but to no avail. Graham. And Scales to put it into touch. Safety first, and Stoke can afford it. 2 up. Simpson. Simpson to Armstrong. Simpson again, and the whistle has gone for half-time. A tragic first half for Arsenal, a freak goal, which I think we must credit to Dennis Smith to put them behind. And then a tragic back pass by Charlie George, which allowed Ritchie to nip in for the second one. So that's the half-time situation in this FA Cup semi-final at Hillsborough. Stoke City 2, Arsenal 0. We should be back with you with the second half in just a couple of minutes from now. So Arsenal get us away at the start of the second half. Arsenal, who started this game 9-5 favourites to win the FA Cup, with Stoke the 7-1 outsiders, but now Arsenal with everything to do in this second half. Conroy. I think that Arsenal conceded only 2 goals in their previous 7 games, and in this tragic 45 minutes that's just gone, they've conceded another 2 that might well completely demolish all their Wembley hopes. Although Stoke themselves were 2 down to Hull City in the last round of the Cup. So if Arsenal can rekindle some of that sort of fire, it may not be lost. Here's Simpson with the free kick for the Arsenal. Radford at the far side, arm aloft. George Graham's gone in there, and Charlie George too. George Graham nodding it on, and George Graham again. Radford with a chance, and Radford with another chance over. And in fact, it's John Ritchie who's right down there, inside his 6-yard area, who blocked that first one. Radford really hammered that one, the first one. And a clever little chip for the second one, which didn't quite come off. And so Stoke get the goal kick with Gordon Banks. George Graham. In fact, it's McClintock now. Rice. And Blore finding Conroy. In for Greenough. Beautiful skills by Greenough, and Mahoney away! McClintock hesitated, Mahoney, and straight into Wilson. And George Graham and Peter Storey having a right word with the referee. They felt he should have been given up offside, but he was onside when that ball was played. And Arsenal very nearly hesitated to find themselves really in deeper disaster. It's one or two very good breaks that Mahoney has made, with Greenough reading it so well. It's Skeels now. Stopped by Simpson. Arsenal by no means at the moment doing themselves justice. Law so short. And so it's Arsenal's throw with George Armstrong. Over the head of Skeels to Kennedy. Now Radford and Graham leaping at that far side. And Storey to hammer it! And a goal! You've got to give it to Storey! And Arsenal back in it! Radford and Graham jumped so beautifully for it, and it finally came out for Storey. There was a ricochet, but Peter Storey really hammered it. So 4 minutes of the second half gone, and Kennedy to Armstrong as Arsenal come fighting back. Radford and Smith losing his kick. Oh, and a ricochet there, or rather a collision between Blore and Smith. Now Kennedy. Blore is with it. Well, if Arsenal were going to do anything about it in the second half, they badly wanted to get off on the right foot, and that they've done. It really was a blinding shot by Storey. Kennedy pushed in the back, but he still managed to get it over. And now Burrows. Storey's gone in there like a tiger. Peter Storey, who's made a habit of scoring important goals for the Arsenal. That, in fact, is his 7th this season. 4 of them have come from penalties. Now Mahoney, shouldered off that ball unfairly by George Graham. Burrows to take the free kick. Pedgick inside him, but he's got plenty of white shirts in the penalty area to aim for, and claiming that Pat Rice is not 10 yards from the ball. He's going to have to take it, though. Pedgick. I think he was probably right that Rice wasn't 10 yards off the ball, but he's come through to Pedgick, and the referee, in fact, has stopped the game. And this time he's making sure that Rice is 10 yards from the ball. Although to me he looks to be in an identical position to the first one, and Pat Partridge is coming across, and Rice could get himself into trouble. Now it is Burrows. Ritchie looking for it, but McClintock getting it away. Now Storey. Bravely getting it out to Kennedy. Charlie George is onside. George is all right. Charlie George. Down he goes. Was it inside? No, the linesman, in fact, had got his flag up. That really must have been a marginal decision, because again it looked to me, just as it did for Mahoney right at the start of this the second half, that when the ball played he was onside. And the linesman said no, and it's a free kick for Stoke with skills. McNabb, Conroy, Simpson, Kennedy in there, McNabb again. Kennedy right up. Oh, off Kennedy's body, and Bloor going in and using his elbow too. So a chance for Arsenal to pile it on again. It's going to be Simpson with it. Played towards George Graham, and he couldn't control it. The idea was certainly a good one. It was a variation from the long flighted balls towards the head of Kennedy and Radford, but George Graham couldn't quite control it. Rice keeping his head well. Story. And Smith getting up well for that one for Stoke and finding Conroy. Pejic. Ritchie winning that one in the air against Peter Story. Well, that one fell nicely for Story. He was determined enough, and perhaps his determination deserves some reward. George Graham. And Mahoney. In fact, says the referee, going over the top. And so Arsenal's free kick. McClintock with it. Charlie George right up there, and Bloor to get it away. Only Greenough up. And Greenough! Now is a break for Stoke City. McClintock trying to get back. Greenough over the top! Tremendous break by Greenough. And so determined are Arsenal to get on with it that Wilson really felt it behind that goal to get it. Kennedy getting up well, but Smith was behind him. Kennedy again, and now a break for Arsenal. And Skills beautifully in command there for Stoke. And George is down again. If this goes on, I would think there must be a temptation for Arsenal to bring on John Samuels, their substitute. Well, they're the supporters who've come just up the motorway from Stoke. Beginning, I suppose, what they would regard as a victory chant already. McClintock there, Frank McClintock organising his men, a tremendous captain this fellow, and in the quarter of an hour that remains he's really got to whip them up for something. Well, the sad sight for Arsenal fans is Charlie George limps off, and John Samuels, the substitute, coming on. There's Samuels, number 12, possessor of one of the fiercest shots in the game. And it'll be a drop ball. McNabb and Conroy there between them to fight for it, and it's McNabb who gets it to Armstrong. Now Kennedy. Armstrong. Simpson. George Graham. Greenough beating Simpson in the air. McClintock behind him. Kennedy leaping once more for the Arsenal, and it'll come out now for George Armstrong, but showing too much of it to Skills. And a throw to the Arsenal. Under a quarter of an hour to go now. Conroy or McNabb. Oh, well played by McNabb. And it might still go for the Arsenal. No, it won't, because Mahoney was right back there. Simpson. Going on and on, Simpson. McNabb getting out of his way. A good-looking cross there. And that had Stoke. It seemed in a bit of trouble for a moment, but there were so many white shirts in defence. Mahoney. And Arsenal's throw. 5 minutes left. Very much as though Graham was pulled down by Bloor, but referee Partridge has let it go on. Ritchie now. And Greenough, but cut out by Rice. Burrows sticking with him, and Arsenal's throw. Story to lift it again into that Stoke penalty area. Graham going in. Oh, and Banks grabbing it down by the post from George Graham's header. Burrows. And Samuels, and obstruction. It'll be Pejic with it. Greenough to chase it. But Rice instead to Simpson. And a foul by Greenough on Rice. As Stoke now something like 2.5 minutes away from Wembley, from their first ever cup final. McClintock. Rice, McClintock, Samuels to look for George Graham. Oh, and Arsenal slow to react to that one, and Bloor wasn't. Safety first for him, right into that stand on the far side. Rice. Smith to put it behind, but in fact the whistle had gone for offside against George Graham. And now 2 minutes left. Back with Banks. Rice trying desperately to get that ball before it goes out of play. McClintock to Radford. In turn to Armstrong, who will run and fight forever. But now he's got a little over a minute left. Radford to Armstrong. McNabb's gone down the left for him. Conroy is covering McNabb, getting it across, and Smith full length to put it behind for the corner. 1 minute now to go, and not many more chances for the Arsenal to make something of it. Armstrong with it, and almost the entire Arsenal side in that Stoke penalty area, including Simpson. But the whistle had gone. And it must have been a foul on Banks as that one came across. And behind that goal there, the Stoke supporters really jumping for joy, because they know that if their side can hold out for a minute or more, then they've also qualified for a trip to Wembley for the final. Banks with the kick for Stoke City. Story in on it. Radford looking for it with his head. Arsenal desperate for searching out this ball. Down goes Graham, and a free kick to the Arsenal. I think Samuels, Burrows and Pidgeck have heard it. Just as everybody goes forward as we go now into injury time, so every Stoke player has come back. Armstrong wanted to take it quickly. The wall won't get away 10 yards. And Armstrong saying, how can I take it quickly with the referee standing over it? Now he can take it. Armstrong going in, or rather Graham going in. Samuels with a shot. And another flick, and it's wide, and a corner. And again, Banks having it out with the referee. I've never seen Gordon Banks argue as much as he's argued this afternoon. We've now played 45 seconds of injury time as Armstrong takes this last gasp corner for the Arsenal. Everybody up and heading off the line. Was it a penalty? It's a penalty because it was pushed off the line by Mahoney. And so Arsenal, in the very last seconds, have a penalty. Story is the man with the terrible responsibility. Story, who has scored in 4 penalties this season, now faces Gordon Banks, the #1 goalkeeper in the world, and there are Arsenal players who dare not watch. Story versus Banks, Wembley at stake, and he's done it! Story has equalised! 2-2, and you cannot get a more dramatic semi-final than this. Arsenal reprieve with almost the very last kick. Two goals to Story, 2 goals to the Arsenal, and Stoke are shattered. An Arsenal fan on the field, but McNabb is shooing him off. He wants to get on with it and look for the winner now. Conroy. Suddenly it's the crowd at the other end of the ground who've erupted, and the Stoke supporters have gone silent. Kennedy. What a tremendous achievement by Story. And McClintock now. And now Mahoney with a great shot just over. Mahoney just over. The real ice-cool brain of Peter Story has pulled Arsenal out of trouble. 2 goals, 1 blinding shot and 1 ice-cool penalty. And we've now played 3 minutes of injury time. Graham, and now Armstrong, and Kennedy off in pursuit, and Bloor is slower. Now Kennedy, can he do it? Banks has lost it. Can Armstrong turn it back? A corner. And it's all over. And so they've got to do it all again at Villa Park on Wednesday night. Tremendous climax to this really gripping cup tie, a semi-final, and a place at Wembley still in the balance. With Smith and Ritchie having scored for Stoke in the first half, and Peter Story, the 2 for Arsenal in the second half. So the final score of this semi-final is Stoke City 2, Arsenal 2.
So a really fabulous finish there at Hillsborough that gives Arsenal a second chance. 2 points I think worth making before we're going. One is that the referee, Pat Partridge of Middlesbrough, I thought had a truly tremendous game. And the second one is about the tickets for the replay at Villa Park. Arsenal have asked us to say that non-season ticket holders can in fact get tickets at Highbury at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. There'll be something like 20,000 on sale, and it'll be 2 per person. But what about that penalty and the wonderful coolness of Peter Story in taking it at that very last minute? Before he'd hardly got his breath back yesterday, I asked him about it.
Well, so was it a corner or a free kick? I can't remember really. I think Frank got up to it and headed it down, and someone punched it away, didn't they?
That's right.
And,
Mahoney. Now tell us
yeah.
about the moments leading up to striking that ball past Gordon Banks, though. What were you thinking about?
I was praying really. I thought it's got to go in. We can't miss it now. Yeah.
The most important kick you've probably ever taken in your life, I would think, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah. Must be.
Yes, indeed. But you've had some success with penalties this season, of course, haven't you?
Yeah, I think it's the 5th or 6th one I've scored. I've missed one in the first cut, but I've had quite a few in the last minute. 3, I think. That's my 3rd one in the last minute, I think.
Yeah, don't keep doing that for the sake of Arsenal supporters. What about the first one you scored? After 50 minutes?
Yeah, I just got knocked down, and I come on the edge of the box and hit it on the volley. I didn't see it go in, actually. I went through a crowd of players and...
Slight deflection, I think.
Yeah, I think it caught someone's shoulder or something, didn't it?
But credit to Peter Story. Did you think you were lost when you were 2 down at half-time?
Well, we felt a bit down, you know, but we come out, you know, decided to have a go in the second half, and it worked out in the end. We gave them 2 goals, I think, you know, in the first half. We had 2 bad goals. I thought we played quite well really. You know.
Peter Story, everybody's hero at Highbury today. And now let's meet the Arsenal skipper in that really pulsating match at Hillsborough yesterday, Frank McLintock, with him Jimmy Hill.
Well, Frank, I better confirm first of all that it isn't that we daren't have Peter Story in the studio today. I think he is in Chesterfield, isn't he?
Yes, I think he is, Jim.
Yeah. What about that? You know, 1 week he's in the news. He's in the news this week as the great hero of the side. What about his performance yesterday?
I think that was Peter's best game I've seen him playing for Arsenal. Apart from scoring his goals, his tackling in midfield was tremendous. He won almost every ball, and he finished up scoring the first goal and then a vital goal in the last minute, which must have been terrifying for him, you know.
Well, we'll have a look at all that in a minute. First of all, I want to look at the Stoke getting on top, the 2 goals. Why was it that you took so long to settle down and get into this game?
Well, we didn't actually, Jimmy. I thought for the first 15 minutes we were the better team. I thought we really played well and we were looking nice and composed. And all of a sudden, they got a freak goal, really. Peter Story tried to clear the ball. I think it was Smith came in and blocked it. The ball ricocheted past Peter Story and in the back of the net, you know. And then the second goal was just one of those goals Charlie George tried a back pass. It can happen to anyone. And he played it too short and then there was another goal.
Right. Well, let's live those awful moments over now. The first one, which we can see here quite clearly, was a freak goal, as you say. Peter Story comes out with the ball and is about to clear it. And look at that, the rebound. And even then, it just dribbles over the line. Awful moment. Can't believe it, can you? Pat Rice there just can't believe that a goal could come that way. Extraordinary goal. And of course, there you see, I mean, an extraordinary goal, but lovely for Stoke. And the second one, Charlie George's pass back. The difference, I think, between a defender when he makes a pass like this and a forward comes back, he doesn't really live with the kind of danger the defender lives with. And extraordinary there, John Ritchie doesn't touch it, and neither did Bob Wilson. And he gets over the top of him and puts it in with his left foot. He didn't do very much else in the game apart from that, John Ritchie, yesterday. Tribute to your marking. I thought actually that Ritchie got a touch to it yesterday, but I see from that he didn't. But obviously, you know, I think Bob Wilson may have been blamed there for not keeping his eye on that ball and putting his hand in. I'm not asking you to confirm that because I'd be in desperate trouble with Arsenal. That's my view anyway. But he did do very well on several other occasions when Stoke did break through. Yes. What happened at half-time? 2-0 down. Did you feel it was another Swindon and that you were doomed to lose again?
Well, this went through our minds, I think. It was going through my mind, you know, that it happened before at Swindon. Last week against Cologne, we were very unlucky, I thought. And we're a little bit disappointed, you know. But we started talking amongst each other, and Don Howe come on and made a few tactical changes. And we thought, well, let's try and keep composed and confident and don't just start running everywhere and throwing high balls in. Let's try and play football all the time. Well, we came out and we got a goal just after half-time, which settled us down, and then I thought we had a fair chance then, you know.
And in fact, of course, it was Peter Story's great shot, which was deflected a bit. Now, I'm happy to say, well done, Peter Story. Let's have a look at that beautiful goal now that you scored yesterday. Here it is coming up. There's the ball into the middle. And you see how he's running to the right of the picture. Number 4 there, Peter Story, and he hits the shot on the turn, accelerates into it. There's the deflection there. But you can see there's still a lot of speed on that ball as it hits the back of the net. A really first-class shot. What about him as a player? I mean, I talked about his reaction to referees, but I did think that he's probably a better passer of the ball than most give him credit for, and probably more useful in the Arsenal side than most people do.
Yes.
Well, how do you read him as a player?
Well, in the last month, Jimmy, I think he's really been playing at his best. Previous to that, I think he was playing sort of an anchor man in midfield, and he was doing a very good job at that. But that was his whole contribution, really. But in the last month, he's been breaking through against Crystal Palace. He went through 2 or 3 times, and he's been doing it in the last 4 matches, and it's added to his game, you know. He's also stopping him.
Do you
him,
think he's capable of scoring more goals?
Well, he must be. He's started knocking them in lovely now, you know. I don't think he realised it before, but once he's got the taste for it, I think he'll keep on doing it.
Well, he had the awful moment yesterday, the penalty that came up, What was going through everybody's mind at that moment?
Well, there's a story about this. Bob McNabb and I, every time Peter has a penalty, I think it happened maybe at Portsmouth or before that, we always seem to come together on the field for some reason. And I always say to Bob, do you think Snouty, we call Peter Story Snouty for some reason. So I said, do you think Snouty will score the goal? And he says, no, I don't think he'll score, you know. And I say, I don't think he will either. And each time he's scored the goal. So the same thing happened yesterday. I says to Bob, do you think Snout will score? And he says, nah, no chance. I says, I don't think so. And Peter stuck at home again. Yeah.
Well, in fact, Snout yesterday did score the goal, but he prayed, didn't he, beforehand?
So they tell me. I didn't really watch. I was praying myself. I wasn't really... but, they tell me he did a little prayer before he stuck it in, you know.
Yeah, well, I can understand that pressure there. In fact, first of all, we can look and see very clearly. I think there was no argument in anybody's mind that it was a penalty. It was a very good header, I think, from a man called Frank McClintock from that corner. And there it is now, coming over. There's your beautiful header, rising like a lark there. And there's the punch off the line. Clearly, we stopped the ball on the hand, and there it goes off the line. And from that moment, every Arsenal supporter, every Arsenal player's heart, I should reckon, accelerated and thumped against their chest louder than probably ever before. And Peter Story's knees must have been very shaky now. But he runs up, Gordon Banks dancing about there, his feet are on the line, a slight shuffle, not as near the corner of the net as he might have hoped, I think. Would you say fractional miss-hit?
I think he tried to place it a little bit further to Gordon Banks' left-hand side. Yeah. If Gordon had stayed where he was, he might have stopped it. He might have got a touch to it, you know. But anyway, he didn't. That's the main thing.
in fact, Gordon, yes, he did lean the other way. I think that may have been the dummy on the way in.
Yes, possibly.
Stoke performances that impressed you?
I thought they were very good. After the first 15 minutes, when they got their 2 goals, they started playing very well in the first half. Greenough, I thought, had a very good game, you know. Yeah.
In fact, we can have a look at him now, Jimmy Greenough. We've got a little montage because we don't see as much of him in the South, or the Stoke team, in fact. Yeah. And he really did have a splendid game yesterday. It's a little warning signal here, I think, for Wednesday night. Jimmy Greenough, first of all, he had this dangerous shot. Richie pushes you over there, and there's the power of his shot, just flashing past the post. A very skillful player, and he reads the game well with Mahoney. But watch here, the footwork, the way in which there's a dummy, a lovely feint with his left foot, and the accuracy of that cross. Bob Wilson does very well there, just to get a hand to it, with Richie poised on the post to get it away. But here we see the understanding with Mahoney. There's the through ball, looking up, and there's Mahoney running on, and that ball wasn't all that far out. And now the same kind of thing on the left wing. This for me, or on the right wing, this is the pass of the season. Watch the dummy and the accuracy of that. Right in Mahoney's path, and here Bob Wilson does very well to come out, spread himself, and stop what was a point-blank goal. And lastly, his power when he breaks through, and this again is something I think you've got to look for on Wednesday. Look at that acceleration. Look at the way he goes. And again, out comes Bob Wilson. The ball bubbles a bit, and it's over the top, and Arsenal are still there fighting. Wednesday night, how do you feel about it?
Well, I don't think Stoke could get 2 goals like that again, Jimmy. You know, I hope hope they don't. And I feel really confident now. I did before the game, actually. I know semi-finals always can go either way. Yeah. But I think we can beat them.
Well, it's a lot of responsibility for you as the captain. Thank you for that entertaining game yesterday, and good luck on Wednesday.
Thanks.
Now let's take a look at your letters, and because the Arsenal-Stoke match provided us with so much good entertainment, and Frank McClintock was going like a train in the interview, we've cut right back on them, but we have had some from R. Tolley of Southwick, Hampshire, from Clive Foskett of Chelmsford, and Malcolm Horton of Broadstairs, amongst a lot of others, who picked up a point from the recent Liverpool-Spurs cup tie, when John Pratt of Spurs ran through close to the end, and they say that Ray Clements, the Liverpool goalkeeper, handled the ball outside his penalty area, and in fact it should have been a free kick to the Spurs.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. There's no question that Ray Clements handled the ball outside the area. But I think it was a good decision by the referee because he played the advantage rule. It would have been to Spurs' disadvantage. You can see there he's outside the area, and in fact he does handle the ball. But if the referee had stopped the game there and given a free kick, it wouldn't have been as dangerous, I think, as what may have happened there if someone had got on the end of that cross. A good decision.
So 1-up to the referee there at Anfield, who in fact was Gordon Hill of Leicester. Now, over the months, we get a lot of letters from you asking for some amateur football on the programme, and in all honesty, there are too few opportunities for us to be able to do this. But one of them came yesterday when we had a replay, of course, of the FA Amateur Cup semi-final between Dagenham and Slough. That was at Fulham. The replay after a first game at Charlton that finished excitingly at 3-3. Dagenham first onto the pitch, a side who got to the amateur final last year. They're all in red, all dark strip. Not a terribly big crowd at Craven Cottage, just over 7,000. And here comes Slough in an all-yellow strip. Of course, so many of these players had a lot of experience with the fine Enfield side over the last few seasons. Dagenham for the cup, they say. And in fact, Dagenham got off to a very good start. They saved it in the replay in the very last minute, and now they got off to a very good start in this game at Craven Cottage. And in fact, they went ahead after only 8 minutes, a goal that's scored by Peter Leakey, which is coming up in a moment. There he is, number 7, in off the post, and Dagenham then into the lead, and nothing that Slough could do about it. And in fact, for most of the first half, it did seem, so the observers who were there, who said that it looked as though Slough might well be swamped by Dagenham, who seemed very lively indeed. Dagenham, in fact, had a goal disallowed. There was obviously some pushing there. That one was disallowed, and it's a free kick to Slough. But Slough, as I say, with a lot of experienced players, came fighting back, and then 12 minutes before half-time, they got that equaliser, and it was scored by David Swain. So that meant that at half-time they went in at 1-1, with still a lot to play for, with Wembley at stake, and a final there, of course, against the northern side, Skelmersdale. Still Dagenham on the attack in the second half, and a tremendous amount of skirmishing now around this Slough goalmouth. They really didn't seem able to get this ball away effectively. Goalkeeper Wolstenholme diving around all over the place, almost getting in the way there, and finally over the bar to the relief of all the Slough supporters there. In fact, we got very near to the end of the game before Dagenham got their equaliser. It was just a couple of minutes to go. Their winner, rather, not their equaliser. Punched away that time by Wolstenholme, and it's still bobbing about there and taking a long time to get it away, and finally in off. A defender it looked there, but in fact it was credited to Derek Baker. A very soft goal, but one that Dagenham obviously delighted to get, with their supporters sharing in their enthusiasm, and one that puts them into the Wembley final. They came again right at the end. At that time, Wolstenholme was obviously bundled off the ball. That one also was disallowed, so Dagenham are through. And Dagenham then into the final at Wembley, where, as I say, they meet Skelmersdale. That might be quite a game, because Skelmersdale have made such a tremendous reputation for themselves in the north. Well, that's all from the big match today, a special FA Cup semi-final edition, which we hope very much that you've enjoyed, and I hope that you'll join me, of course, for On the Ball next Saturday lunchtime in World of Sport, and for another action-packed big match for you next Sunday afternoon. We leave you, of course, with a little bit of action, and it must be the most nerve-wracking moment, I suppose, that any footballer could ever face. The moment when Peter Storey said a little prayer and took the most important kick of his whole career.
Versus Banks, Wembley at stake, and he's